Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Accessible Hunter Podcast. I'm Mike Hudson, along with my co host, Mr. Greg Trainer. How are you doing today, brother?
Brother, I am doing good. It's a good day. I'm feeling good. Just happy to be talking with our buddy Mac today, and I'm ready to get after it. I'm really excited for the day.
Yeah, it's always exciting when we could bring Mac on. He's always a wealth of knowledge, easy to talk to. You got to keep your eye on him, though, man, because he's just looks like one of those suspects, man, that you might have an issue with later. But I always love being able to talk to guys, man, that are just loving life and getting after it.
Well, Mac is always the guy putting the handcuffs on. I don't think he's worn handcuffs himself, but I know he's put the
Not,
cuffs on a few people.
I've put it on a few people, but I've never worn them yet.
Come on, Mac. Being in law enforcement, we went through a lot of training on how to cuff, speed cuff, and whatnot. I've wore a few myself.
Mike, I'd rather not go back to that period of time because my wrists still hurt from people learning how to cuff.
Dude, it is something people do not understand when you're trying to prone somebody out. Dude, you really, even in training, you're like, man, if you hit my wrist one more time like that, I'm punching you in the mouth.
I got my thumb dislocated at the academy during a scenario cuffing somebody.
Yeah, dude, it's not an easy feat, and when you're going through speed cuffing and whatnot, it's easy to hurt somebody. So you need to really figure out
Absolutely.
what you're doing.
Yep.
Well, guys,
100%.
I know you guys got a lot in common with law enforcement, and I've never worn the bracelets, thank goodness, and I don't plan to anytime soon. But Mike, I also want to point out that you and I are kind of dressed alike now, and we're both wearing headset mics. So I don't know how much more professional we can get, but it only took us about 10 years to figure this podcasting thing out.
You
You
guys
know,
are looking
it,
like you guys are looking like Ricky Bobby's pit crew.
Oh Lord, don't go Ricky Bobby, man. Here we are. We're gonna have to lock it in and be ready to go, dude. It's
Robin's
always
racing,
funny,
boys.
man. It's always funny, dude. It's always a learning process. So I know Max got on his headset. It definitely makes it a lot easier, especially with quads. I don't have a lot of diaphragm where you can get air out good and we have to take deeper breaths. It just adds to it, and I think it gives us a better product.
Oh, absolutely. It Of course, the ones that I'm wearing, they're noise cancellation, so they just block out everything, so you
Yeah.
aren't picking up the background noise or nothing
Mhm.
like that. And my house with the dogs and traffic outside, it's always a noise fest. So anything helps.
Mac, I truly appreciate you coming back on and taking time. It's always um, it's always awesome to be able to get you back on, man. Just talk about spinal cord injuries, law enforcement, all that's good stuff, man. But thank you again for taking extra time, and for
Absolutely.
the people that are just chiming in and listening to us. Tell us a little bit again about your background, but your injury level and that. But what your new endeavors are. That's kind of where we want to focus today.
So my background, I started in EMS right out of high school. Went into the fire service, volunteer for about 6 years. Alongside that, I did 2 years of law enforcement canine handling for a local town here in my area in West Virginia. Um, and uh, Fast forward to my injury. After that, it was a off-duty shooting accident, wrong place, wrong time with the wrong people. Um, that's a long story for another day.
Hmm.
But After that, I went into uh, training canines, both civilian and law enforcement. Did that for about 4 years. Alongside that, also did some private investigation and private process serving stuff, and I still do that today. I actually have one of those to take care of after we get it done here. So somebody's expecting a new gift this week. Uh, but In the past, I guess, really 2 years now, I decided to go back to school through the Sonoran Desert Institute to gain or get my certificate in gunsmithing. And with that, I'm working on getting business started up and get up and running and all the federal licensing and dealing with the ATF and uh, just minute by minute, but started competition shooting with 22 matches here in my local area. Um, so I've been spending a lot of time at the range. I think for the past 2 weeks, I've shot 50 to 100 rounds of 22 a day and just trying
And
to,
that's running in a bolt gun, so that's a lot of chambering, man.
that's a lot. It, I don't know what's worse, the actual shooting part or picking up all the brass when I'm done.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Mac, I've never had as much fun shooting at a rifle range than I've had with a 22. Now, I know that I'm not the caliber shooter that you and Mike are. I mean, I can hold my own, but shooting a 22 and you're doing it anywhere from 25 yards to what, 300?
Three,
What's what what
300.
what's that like, brother, shooting a 22 that far?
Uh, long story short, frustrating. Um, you know, this weekend or this past weekend, I shot in a match. We had 9 shooters. I pulled up a good hard ninth place victory there and wasted a whole 10 round magazine on the first 2 targets, which were 25 yards and 43 yards, and didn't hit nothing. And you know, simple, simple reason of it was I doped my scope wrong.
Yep.
That's always the case, man. You know, people look at stuff like MOA versus MRAD, and they don't understand the two differences and making adjustments, being able to do it. So, you know, in the Marine Corps, we didn't shoot optics for a long time, and but what you had is an aperture on the back, and so you had two different apertures, one small, one large, you know, for day and night shooting. And we would
Hmm.
have knuckleheads do the exact same thing. They'd go unqualified on the range, and you're like, "What was your aperture on the back?" And it was just simple mistakes, dude, and that can get us in a lot of trouble real quick. So how'd you adjust for it?
Well, so after, you know, I've got my dope, I've got a dope chart that I go by,
Hmm.
which honestly, I copied somebody else's dope chart that was running the same platform, and running the same ammo. So, but, my gun's running a little bit hotter than his. So I had to take some off of his dope anyways.
Hmm.
So I was pretty much just guessing at my dope because this is the first match that I've shot this gun in. I shot uh, the guy that I copied his dope chart. I shot his in the month prior match before got
Hmm.
mine built. Um, so I was just guessing at my dope anyways. But um, you know, the mistake of it was, I was supposed to be doping -2 clicks on my MOA, so that'd been half an MOA, and I've like a dummy, I dialed positive 2 MOA,
Mhm.
positive a half MOA, so I wasn't that far off. My dope was right, but I just dialed it the wrong way.
Wrong way.
And I'm
Yep.
not even the one, I didn't even catch it. One of the guys standing 20 yards down the bench, he looked at me, he said, "Are you doping that right?" I said, I looked up, I said, "Nope, sure not." I fixed it, and as soon as I fixed it, I was back on. But at that point, I was 10 rounds down. So
Yeah.
on a 50 shot maximum course on 30 targets, it's hard to catch back up after you blow 10 rounds like that.
Yes, sir. And when you're in a competition like that or when you're hunting, because I even use a chart, I tape it to my ground blind for range for my crossbow. So I'll
Hmm.
have, that the tree to my left is 20 yards, the uh, big bush in front of me is 35. I write it down because in the heat of the moment, you can get really confused and, use the wrong dope or use the wrong pin very
Right.
easily.
You know, you hit the nail on the head, dude. It's all about knowing your firearm, knowing, you know, your device and being able to get on that animal or that target pretty quick. And you know, that was always one of the funny things too is distance ranging. Everybody thinks they know how to adjust it until you're sitting in an unknown course and you're like, is that 100 yards or is that 200 yards? And for
Yes,
the
sir.
layman,
Absolutely.
sometimes that's the hardest thing to do is be able to know the distance.
Yep.
Absolutely. So that plays more of a factor. Like our 22 matches are known distances,
Hmm.
but um going back to when I shot crossbows competitively,
Yeah.
those distances weren't known. So
Hmm.
it's all judging off you. And I mean, it doesn't, if you underestimated 2 yards or overestimated 2 yards, that makes a heck of a difference on your outcome.
And
Yeah.
Mac, I'm laughing because when you say you shot crossbow competitively, you mean world champion Mac Brackenrich, 3D competitive shooter. So yeah, you got a little bit
That's
of experience.
that's the
You got a
guy.
little bit of you got a
That's
little
the
bit of
guy that I meant.
experience. Yeah, that's the
That's the
guy you
guy I
met.
meant.
Just
I was
just
just
just so
I was trying to refer to that guy in third person a little.
yeah, I was just making sure that people know when you're talking about yeah, I shoot a little bit competitively. Yeah, world champion Mac Brackenrich,
Yeah.
3D shooter.
I mean, I technically I did only shoot a little bit. I only shot 1 year.
Yeah,
Hey,
you did all
yeah.
right for an amateur.
Yeah, that's all it took was 1 year to go ahead and win that championship and close it
Yeah,
out, right?
you might as well just hang. You got to hang it up after that because that next season ain't gonna be like that.
Nah, no.
Dude, one and done. That's the way to do it.
That's right.
Absolutely. So, Mac, man, my question is when you're shooting, what's your ballistic drop? If you're going from like 50 yards out to 300 yards with a 22, and uh what grain weight are you shooting? Is that,
So I'm shooting 40 grain, 22 long rifle ammo. Um, so just to put it into perspective, my drop at 300 yards is 148.79 inches.
good
Wow.
gosh. Put that in perspective, that's multiple feet.
Yeah, so that's 47.36 MOA. So one MOA is what, 3.5 inches, three and a
Hmm.
half inches. So just you put that in, yeah, that's a lot.
So all those times in math class in high school when you said, "I'm never going to need math for anything," guess you need math, huh?
Well, Greg, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I just go out here and guess. I don't put the math into it because math is not my strong suit.
Mathing's not mathing, huh?
No.
You know,
If I start doing the math, I better just guess because it's gonna be wrong.
that's what's always funny is when you're watching somebody, even with a scope, you're just like, it says a quarter. How many clicks is that? You're like, dude, that'd be four,
Yep.
Yeah.
for each adjustment. And you're just trying to get these guys on the range sometimes to figure it out. And it's like, I understand we never used algebra again, but simple addition sometimes helps.
Yeah, as long as you can do simple addition, subtraction, you can make do.
Mac, Mac,
I'm not gonna claim I'm putting a whole lot of mathematical skills into it, that's for sure.
Mac, when you're shooting at 300 yards with a 40 grain bullet and you're talking about the wind, how big of a target are you shooting at 300 yards? And what's like a 5 mile an hour wind due to your calculations?
Totally messes it up. So no, when we're shooting the 300, so that competition for 300, we're only shooting 300 yards during that competition.
Okay.
Our other match only goes to 232, which is our precision match.
Okay.
So the long gong match, which is the 300-yard match, we have an 8-inch plate, a 6-inch plate, and a 4-inch steel plate at 300 yards. So that 4-inch plate is like an inch plate at 100, kind of
Yeah.
pretty much.
Wow.
So when you're talking about wind, it really just it depends. It depends gun to gun because every gun's shooting different. Everybody's dope's a little bit different. Everybody's running different types of ammo. Um, And the weather conditions besides the wind play a big factor in it. The
Right.
heat. If it's hotter, your bullet's running a little bit faster out. Um, So all of that goes into it, your pressure, your altitude, your target angle, all of that, you're compensating for all of that. So when it comes down to windage, it's a big factor, but it's a very small factor in the equation because, there's so much other numbers and variables that
Variables.
go into it that, you know, it's not just one thing that you have to account for. And
And
honestly, judging your windage, unless you've got a weather meter, you don't really know your true windage.
right,
So that's kind of an adjust on the fly type adjustment to make because, you know, once you've calculated everything else and you send the first round and you see where that impact is, you can make that windage adjustment from there. And
right.
that's one of the easier adjustments to make as long as you've got your elevation and you're on target, you can make that one pretty easy.
I know you said you built this gun just for these types of competition. What are you seeing out of this rifle in general? Um, Going cold bore on your first shot to how your rifle heats up and responds. Is this one
Hmm.
pretty competitive, or is it something that you're just constantly chasing?
Absolutely. So, um, and that goes back to every rifle is different.
Yeah,
Every guy out on the course, on that first cold bore shot, because we shoot 10 rounds at a time, and then we switch to the next shooter. So no shooter shooting in the same type of wind environment,
right.
any of that. So your first round on each round is always cold bore. Um, so everybody's calling out, I know where this is going to go. It's a cold bore shot. Well, yesterday during my shooting, and I showed you guys the target there earlier, that first target up in the top left-hand corner, I have one that's way astray, high left. Well, there's my cold bore shot because every time I did a cold bore round, I was, high left. So that first shot, you're basically wasting it no matter what. But once you get through 5, 6 rounds, you can actually start seeing your true accuracy once you're actually, you know, got the barrel heated up and you're on target for a good amount of time. Um, Honestly, my barrel and chamber is nothing special. It's not a competition barrel. It's straight from the factory CZ457 varmint, factory barrel, factory action. The only thing that I've done to that side of things is I put a different trigger in it.
Mm-hmm.
I put a Timony 10-ounce straight post trigger in it. So everything else, the stock, it's a Boyd stock,
Mm-hmm.
Boyd at one stock. So I mean, it's nothing super fancy compared to some of the others on the market, but I'm pretty much running a factory rifle from other than the stock and the trigger.
Mac, do you have any adaptive equipment on that rifle, or are you able to pull the trigger independently, or do you use any type of special adaptive gear?
I do. I don't have anything that is disability adaptable. And the list of questions that you sent me before to my email, I actually went through, I was going through those yesterday and kind of writing some notes down. And that was one of the questions that really caught my attention yesterday was, you know, in our situation, everybody's different. Uh, you and
Right.
Mike, you and Mike use sip and puffs.
Mm.
And Greg, I believe we talked about at one point you used like a hook that attached to your wrist to pull the trigger,
Yep.
correct?
Yes, sir. And I've also used a crank trigger as well.
Right.
So I wasn't as successful with my accuracy with a rifle using those because I always felt like I was pulling the gun to the right because I'm
Mm-hmm.
right-handed.
Right.
That's why I went to the sip and puff that just goes
Mhm.
straight back, and I'm a lot more accurate by far using the sip and puff trigger these days.
Sure. So I'm straight, no assistive devices on this rifle. Um, Yeah, I've got some hand limitations where my trigger finger, my normal trigger finger
Right.
it's stuck straight out, so it doesn't bend. So I pull the trigger with my second finger, and it's curved in due to contraction,
Right.
so or limited muscle ability, I guess you could say.
Right.
But so I pull the trigger with my second finger, but I require a straight post trigger over a
Right.
curved trigger because where my finger's already curved already, it's hard for me to actually feel the trigger and you know, feel the movement of the trigger. So with a straight post trigger, I can lay my finger on there and I can feel the whole trigger and the whole pull. So
Right.
Gotcha.
I run a straight trigger instead of a curved.
That helps with some of that trigger take up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In our situation, if there's somebody that's able to pull the trigger, I th I think if they had the feeling is what gets us. So, you've got your standard single stage trigger and you've got a double stage trigger.
Yeah.
The double stage triggers are kind of tricky because I can't feel that first stage come,
Yeah.
I can't feel when I reach the second stage. Like I can't feel like a trigger reset, but so playing with what you can feel and what you can't is going to be the biggest thing there. If you can run a single stage and feel when that, feel how much pressure you're putting on it and where it's going to go off. You don't want to be surprised by it going off. You don't want to accidentally squeeze too hard and let it go off, and that's where your double state or your double stage trigger would come in, if you can actually feel that so it doesn't surprise you. But it everybody's different and everybody's running different things, and that's why I run the Boyd at one stock. It's got your length of pull adjustment so you can extend the butt pad out, um, in different increments, and select that right with just pushing a button on the stock. You can adjust your comb height for your, on the top. But it just everybody's gonna find something different that they like and that fits them better. And honestly, in this situation, I'm sure you guys are the same. I've found that AR platforms are the most compatible for my body
Right.
because you can adjust them in so many ways. You can put different things
Yep.
on them. You can, it, and they're tough. You can beat them up and not have to cringe when you hit them on something or whatever when you're moving them around. But just the adjustability of the AR platform itself is, that is where I've found the most user friendly for the disability side of things.
If you I pull the trigger sometimes with my thumb, but like
Mhm.
Greg, I'm pulling it off to the right. So in these competitions, is there something that would negate you being able to use a sip and puff? Would that bump you out of some of these competitions, or have you seen anybody use any of these adaptive equipment type in any of the competitions you've been in so far?
Rules, because the plate where I'm shooting at the range I'm shooting now, our guys have kind of made it's a bench rest match, but we're not going by any organization rules per se.
Gotcha.
We're there are rules, but they're kind of flexible. If you want, as long as
Sure.
Yeah.
if everybody agrees on it, then we're good with it. And our scores only count for this range, like it's not
Right.
counting Ashley or anything. So, um, if you can find a club or shoot like that, you'd be perfectly fine for that. But with the PRS, which is the Precision Rifle Series,
Yeah.
um, they they their rules, they go by different stages. So there's a lot of
Mm.
movement in PRS. So PRS probably isn't for us. Um, don't figure I'm gonna make it that far. But bench rest would probably be the closest organization that you could get in and shoot because it's stationary off a bench. It would just depend on, uh, with the ADA and stuff, I would imagine that there's a way for that to happen.
Sure. One of the big things, Mac, and people don't realize is we can't feel our hands. So when you
Mhm.
were talking about you can't feel the trigger pull, that was a big thing with me that I would have to look at my wrist where I was going to bump the crank trigger, look at my wrist, look through the scope, look at my wrist so that I knew when that gun was going to go off. And it just got to be, too much for me going back and forth between my optic and my hand because I lose feeling right at the biceps. I can't feel my
Mhm.
arms at all. So I'm sure that they would make accommodation, but
Oh, I'm,
it might put you into a different class, as I think Mike was alluding to.
and that, that's something that if there, if it got big enough, or it would just take that one person to get involved with that kind of organization to
Hmm.
create that class.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
obviously I'm very new and fresh into it, but, that's kind of where my side of things come into play as to making those kind of changes. Um, you know, IBO had a disability class at one point. I think they did away with it, just because there wasn't enough people
Right.
participating in it that actually needed it. So, we're losing more things that have had these classes by nobody doing it
Right.
than we are
Yeah.
by trying to get people into it and having to, once it's there it's easy to adapt, but once it's gone and trying to get it to come back is that's a struggle because nobody nobody wants to do it. And you guys see that, we look at the younger generations these days, nobody wants to be involved in anything. But when you look at the disability world, it's kind of the same. You know,
Right.
Yeah. And
we
and
we don't get involved in anything, you
And
know.
again, I don't mind competing against able-bodied shooters as long as I can use my mount and my sip and puff trigger. But
Hmm.
I think a lot of people view that as an advantage, that I have a advantage over them. I know whenever I go to a couple of bow shoots and we're shooting ping pong balls at 20 and 30 yards and I'm cracking nine of them in a row. They're saying, well, you're using a mount, you're using a sip and puff, and I get that. It's an extremely accurate, system, and I could understand why people would think that would be an advantage, even though it's something that I need to participate. There's no other way I can shoot without my
So
equipment.
that's one of the things that I've kind of experienced with getting into this 22 match world is, the guys I shoot with, I've known them for many, many years, and they're great guys. And some of them I don't, but they've been very open, to me coming in and changing some things around and doing things a little bit differently to so that I can be involved and make things go a little bit quicker or easier, however. But they've brought up some ideas like, we could try this or you could try this, and we're open to it. Shoot off a tripod, and me being me, I'm hard-headed. If I
Right.
know that I can do it one way, I'm going to strive to do it as normal as
Right.
a normal bodied person is going to, so that um that feeling of an advantage that you touched on, Mike,
Right.
isn't isn't necessarily there, because I would rather struggle to do better in a normal way
Hmm.
than adapt in a different way that makes it not as make it look not as competitive as what it what it was. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right. I
so
get it. You want to adjust that ableistic mentality and say, I'm not using a bench, that's going to give me even more of an advantage in your sight, even though they don't understand the disadvantages that we have with,
Right.
the disabilities. They'll never understand that part. You
Yeah.
just don't want to
And,
see. You want to stay in the same wheelhouse.
Yeah.
and that's, I was straight up with them. Like, look, like I don't mind to try anything. Like, if you guys have ideas, throw them at me. I don't mind to try them, but I can shoot off the bench the same way you guys are,
Right.
and I can do it. So pushing myself to do that and do it better at each time only makes me a better shooter and only makes this a better competition.
Sure.
Right.
So it's all in your mindset, really. But I mean, there's nothing wrong against taking the adaptive side. If that makes it easier for you, like I'm telling you, I mean, taking the normalistic side drives me crazy
Yeah.
because there's so many steps and more movement in my body than somebody else's to
Right.
get into position or get just to pull the trigger, to feel the trigger. It takes me a lot longer to put off a shot, all of that. But being able to just enjoy it and have fun however you want to do it. I don't care if you shoot in competition or not.
Right.
Um, 22, honestly, I've had more fun shooting 22 than I've had shooting any of my other guns over the past several, well, I mean, I'm going on 8 years now. So, I mean, from
Heck
my
yeah.
disability side, this is the most fun that I've had shooting in a long time because I know you guys are the same. I don't like to go out and feel felt recoil all day at the range.
No.
Right. And Mac,
I can sit behind this 22 for hours and not feel a thing.
And Mac, you said it right at the beginning. We're all different. We just want to get out there. We want to get to the range with our buddies. We want to have a little competition. We want to give people the business whenever we outshoot them. We want to be able to let them feel comfortable enough with us to give us the business whenever we miss. It's
Absolutely.
it's just guys shooting, guys and girls going to the range, trying to enjoy a day with their family and be competitive. So we're all
I
different,
went
you know.
I went out this weekend and you know, obviously, our match is $20 for the, spend that, but I made a side bet. I come up last and lost 20 more dollars.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed every bit of it.
Right. It was worth it.
Absolutely, man. It's about building those relationships, building those bonds, trying to get those 10 shots and, being dead center. Yeah, all we want to do is be better shooters. I'm like you, Mac. A lot of times I want to challenge myself. So if I can get back to just shooting offhand or, pulling the trigger with my thumb, or even sometimes I pull the trigger with my left hand just because
Mhm.
I've got more feeling and dexterity. My hands like yours. I'm right-handed, but my left hand's more drawn, and my index finger stays poked out, and I'm having to constantly adjust it. If I can pull that trigger, that's fine. But if I'm out trying to harvest an animal, I'm gonna go to that sip and puff. It just to me, it gives me more of a positive feeling, and I know the accuracy that's there, and I'm not doing anything to offset that trigger lag.
Absolutely. And that's another big thing that I've had to adapt to. You know, I've I've hunted and shot past, since my injury,
Hmm.
but you know, it's just been in a hunt, a crossbow setting or my hunting rifle setting. I've not just went out and shot just fun fun shooting or shooting for complete super precise accuracy either. But before my injury, I was right side dominant, right hand dominant.
Right.
Now I'm left side dominant, left hand dominant because my right fit, my fit, I have a fist from contracture on my right side.
Hmm.
Um, so it, I've had to adapt to learn to shoot left-handed, and now doing it for precision it's even different switching from just shooting my hunting rifle to precision shooting because it's so much more fine and precise. We go back to pulling the trigger and being able to feel that side of things. Um, like when I go to shoot, I put my finger on the front of my trigger guard. Um, and then when I'm getting ready, I'll let my finger slip into the trigger guard because I know that's in front of the trigger, and I move back until I feel the trigger. So I'm not doing it off of eyesight. I'm just doing it off of feel of where I know
Yep.
my trigger guard is, and I know where my trigger's at, and I know from the pressure where my finger's at on the trigger. Um, and it's just, art, and it's important, and you guys will know this, but you know, being in touch, our disabilities put us in touch with our bodies in ways that other people don't understand their bodies.
Hmm.
Yep.
And, you know, like going out here shooting, I could go out here with a blindfold and still pull off a shot
Yes,
and
sir.
not have to look at it, but not for accuracy, of course, but I could do it and not have to
Oh, he froze up on us.
sense away from the body or multiple senses away from the body. You adapt to other things.
Mac, it's muscle memory, and
Absolutely.
you touched on it. And I do the same shot whether I'm at the range or whether I'm hunting. I got a certain sequence I go through that, I'm looking at the safety. I make sure the safety's off. I'm making sure I got a good sight picture. I'm making sure my head is in the same position on my stock. Okay, where's the this bolt or where this is this shot going to go? I have a set sequence that I do the same way every time, and that's all muscle memory. As you said, you could take that shot blindfolded, and it's not going to change how your body moves or what you're doing that day.
Absolutely. And that's like we just touched on, it's just being in touch with your body in a different way than an able-bodied person normally is, just because you've lost so many of those senses that your other senses take over and you use them
Yeah.
in a different way.
You know what I find interesting, Mac, is going through law enforcement and different training. I know you said don't go back to the academy, but a lot of times we had to shoot offhand, in case you ran into a scenario where your primary weapon was down or you had an issue. I think it's pretty cool now that you're goofy foot, and we used to call it some in the Marine Corps. You're switching up to your non-dominant side, but that's becoming your dominant side now because of necessity with your injury. So, dude, that to me, that's kind of cool in a unconventional way. In
That's
that,
probably one of the that's probably one of the best things that I ever taught myself how to do before my injury
mhm,
was be efficient with my left side offhand.
right,
Just because, they stress it at the police academy,
sure,
obviously. Um, just because you got to stay in the fight, right?
yep,
You take a round to your right shoulder, probably not running that handgun on that side anymore.
nah,
You're not running your rifle on that side. So you got to be able to adapt and stay in the fight. And, that was one of the things that I've really stressed about teaching myself after, past the academy, whatever, was shooting left-handed. And
hmm
that's probably one of the best things that I ever did teach myself how to do, because obviously it comes in handy now, but um, a lot of the things that I taught myself how to do then still apply now.
Mac, we got a bunch of questions in whenever I kind of put the word out that we were going to have a gunsmith on the podcast. We got a bunch of questions from people, and if you don't mind, I'd like to fire a couple at you.
Hit me with them.
All right, brother. One of the questions is, if a firearm starts misfiring in the field, what's the first thing we should check before panicking?
Make sure you got the magazine in, make sure your safety's off, um, and make sure that your action fully closed.
Having that bolt fully closed, that's gotten me a time or two that, we didn't slam it forward and I'll make sure it was fully locked. That's for sure.
So most of your most common firearm malfunctions are user related.
Yeah.
A lot of it's not seating your magazine all the way. A lot of it's not getting your bolt closed all the way. Or if you're running like an AR platform, you've got the when you got the forward assist, you've got
Yeah.
but if that round doesn't seat properly, you're not going to be fully closed and locked, and it's not going to go off.
You know,
Yes,
it's one
sir.
of those funny things, man. I can get on the range, and a lot of times I can tell the guys that were jarheads. You know, we go through a scenario. We're so used to carrying a lot of rounds and different magazines, but you'll see a guy pull out and wrap the magazine on his head, throw it in the rifle, chamber it, and immediately hit that forward assist. And it's going through the protocols you just said. It's all user error. It's usually if you can get that round seated, that weapon will fire. But it's always, you can see those guys that wrap that magazine to go ahead and seat the rounds in the mag before you ever even load it in a rifle.
And magazines are built to take the brunt of everything.
Yeah,
Be rough on them. Make sure they see. And you've probably heard it in police academy, law enforcement field, like tap and rack.
yeah,
If it goes click, s- hit the magazine
yep,
and rack it again, and go again.
There you
Um,
go. Mac, another question we got is what's one maintenance habit that can extend the life of your firearms? What should we be doing maintenance wise or cleaning wise? What's some good tips to extend the life of our firearms?
well, so this is kind of a controversial topic, but um, my recommendation is just clean it. A lot of people just don't clean it.
right,
Yep,
Um, so you know, and it's hard. Um, it's a chore, especially in our situation. It's a chore. Um, every time I shoot this new rifle, I don't care how many times I shoot it, I clean it.
right,
I clean it. I have a routine. I have my process. I use some great cleaning supplies, which I can touch on.
sure.
That cut down the cleaning time. But literally just clean it. But another mistake that I would really point out is don't over clean it. There's a fine line between too much oil and enough oil,
yeah,
or too much grease and just enough grease.
right,
Because if you over clean it, over oil it, over lube it, you're gonna get it. It's gonna jam because all it's doing is collecting carbon, um, lead dust, whatever, and it's gonna jam.
yeah,
You put enough gunk on a moving part, it's gonna jam.
Yep,
It's gonna
yeah,
seize up. But and and being mindful of what grease you're using for cold weather and hot weather. You put the wrong grease in there that's not rated for to get cold, that grease is gonna freeze.
right,
And hands down, it's gonna freeze if you're out in the field. It's not gonna run right. Too much grease is not good, but it the biggest thing is just clean.
yeah,
Because that's where a lot of the downfall is. Dirty parts are not good parts.
yep,
You get carbon buildup on your firing pin, your ejector, your extractor, um, your bolt head. Like that's going to affect your locking mechanism, and, your feeding abilities. Um, and it's just cleaning. In our situation, cleaning, like I said, cleaning's a chore. Cleaning can be hard to find the right supplies to use that, easy for us to get our hands on and, actually utilize. I use Otis Technology has been great. I'm actually a dealer for them, but I use all of their products every time I clean anything. I use their kits, their uh, solid cleaning rods, their patches, everything that
Mac,
they have.
Mac, along those same lines, I mean, you're at the range every week. You're shooting. You're putting a lot of rounds through your rifle. What about the guy that goes out a couple of times a year? What's the best way to store that rifle in his gun safe? Uh, is there anything special they should be cleaning and treating their rifle with, and then putting it away for an extended time?
I would say there's no real wrong way to do it. Don't put it away dirty. Obviously, I'm sure you guys have seen how a muzzleloader corrodes over time if you leave it for
Hmm.
even just a week.
Yep.
Um, you know, your other firearms will do the same thing, just not on an extreme scale as a muzzleloader. But when you leave them dirty and gunked up with, that old grease and oil on there, that just sits over time and it just gets crusty and built up and it's not going to run smooth. But if you leave lead and copper fouling in the barrel, that's going to affect your rifling down the road. It's just going to get caked up and it's going to be harder to clean in the long run. But
Yeah.
I mean, to put it away, if you're just, if it's your hunting rifle that you only go out and sight in once a year, take out for deer season, then you put it away for the rest of the year, you know, clean it really good, remove all the carbon, copper fouling out of it, and put a good light coat of oil on it. Don't grease it to put it away, but just put a nice light coat of oil on it. Wipe that off after you're done and put it in a safe with a moisture um, moisture wicking tool in it. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're using, a moisture bag or a dehumidifier, but put it somewhere where it's not going to collect any dampness or moisture. And same goes for your ammo. Put that there too,
Yep.
Yeah.
because ammo sitting in uh, a bad environment will you know,
Start
user
to corrode.
user ma user induced malfunctions and ammo induced malfunctions are the two most leading causes of malfunctions.
Man, you hit a lot of things right there on the head, dude. You got a lot of moving parts in these firearms. So if you're going to an AR platform with gas and friction and all that, and then you put it into a desert environment and all that. Now you got a lot of friction components. We used to run a lot of CLP and different stuff just to keep them running. And then
Oh,
one of the things I do too.
don't hit me with the CLP,
Hey,
Mark.
dude,
Give me
that's
the
just one of the
Christmas.
easy go-to. I
Oh
know,
no.
dude,
Oh no.
I know. It is what it is. Sometimes you just got to run with what you got. Um,
Yeah, it's like
but
that's like cleaning with straight gasoline.
I know, Bo, and sometimes that's what we would do is strip a firearm down, throw it into a trash can, and really just get the good components in there. Go back with another type of oil and just get right back after it. But that's a whole nother scenario. But one of the things I've been looking at too is know where you're storing your firearm. So I've got digital gauges that tell me what my heat is in a safe or my humidity. You hit it. Know where you're storing your stuff because you're building up corrosion
Yep.
on that ammo and everything else.
It's a big investment that you want to take care of,
A
and
lot
having that information is valuable for sure, Mike.
a lot of people will, and then I seen this back a couple months ago. I was um, working on a gun for Matt Miller.
Yeah, Matt.
It's just his personal and that he had bought, and the guy he bought it from had left it in a styrofoam hard case
Oh,
for
geez.
a very long time, and the styrofoam actually ate into the barrel
Wow.
and started to actually really corrode the barrel down on the outside.
Yep.
So being mindful what they're up and touching all the time, that felt in the safe is a heck of a lot better than that styrofoam. And that I've got moisture wicking bags in my Apache case that I just bought for this 22 rifle back and forth. So while it's in there, there's no moisture just sitting in there.
Right.
So it's just you just got to be mindful. Nobody appreciates the days of appreciation of firearms is kind of going out the window,
Yeah.
um, because it's so easy just to go out and buy a new one. But so I see that a lot in the younger generations of they don't really care because they can go out and spend $500 and buy a new one.
Yeah.
But, you know, I grew up, I've still got the same rifle. I bought my first rifle back there in the
Right.
safe.
Sure.
And
I'm
that's
still running it.
you brought up a good point there too, Mac, is components are getting to where they're more readily available. We've got a lot of more manufacturers that are making them here. But you know what? These are investments, and you want to buy a good component. And I've still got my first firearm I got from my grandfather, and this
Yep.
is a single shot Savage 22 rifle. But you know what? That's an heirloom to me, and I love getting that thing out and taking care of it. But it is cringeworthy sometimes being a quad because it's wood, and I'm always leery that I'm gonna bang it up and beat the stock up so I don't break it out as much. But man, just take care of your investment. Know what your parts are. Uh, get on the range and shoot them all you can, but just take care of your stuff, man.
It, like I said, a lot of this is super controversial topics because there's a million different ways to do it. And you brought up the CLP.
Right.
I look at a bottle of CLP and I absolutely cringe.
Yeah.
Just because CLP is so hard to get off. Like it
Right.
just leaves such a thick film. And I use modern Spartan products,
Yep.
um, which they're green products, but they're super thin. They don't leave coating on there. Um, they sell an actual carbon destroyer. They sell a copper and lead destroyer, which removes that stuff before you do it. But their oil, I can put a thick coat of oil and wipe it off, and it's in the
Yeah.
metal, but it's not sitting on top of the metal. And you know,
I I
that goes
just found
back to,
I just
but
found them this year, Mac, and I agree they make a heck of a product, and um, getting a recommendation from a gunsmith like yourself, and you guys both do a lot more rifle shooting than I do, but I found it to be really helpful and a good company to deal with.
I'm a dealer for them as well. Marcus at Modern Spartan, the owner, super great guy to work with. I actually found them from SDI because they are in connection with SDI. And in our cleaning course for SDI, we actually received uh, the Modern Spartan Carbon Destroyer and the
Yeah.
Modern Spartan Accuracy Oil
Yeah.
with our cleaning kit. So I found them through that and got in touch with them because I needed more. Um, because like a crazy person, whenever we started cleaning class, I went through and cleaned literally everything I had and then some. And so I ran out faster than everybody else did. So I needed to order more. And after I got in touch with Marcus, he was great. Marcus and we were in uh, contact with each other at least 2, 3 times a month. And he would just reach out and just ask how I'm doing. Um, so it's super great place, super great company, super great products. I recommend them over literally anything else that I've touched. I don't use hops number 9 anymore.
Right.
I don't use the old CLP. Not I ain't gonna say that, but there's nothing bad about CLP. Like I said, if you're cleaning, you're a step ahead anyways, because nobody likes to clean. But uh,
There's
choosing
there's better
th-
products out there to use.
there's better products.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
in my defense on the CLP, that's governmental work. In the Marine Corps, they're not going to go spend the most. They want that device just up and running. Their thing is you run a brush across it, throw more oil on it, and let that thing eat. And
It's
so coming from a saw gunner and fully automatic, dude, we would load down with CLP and that baby. But here's the difference. These guys are getting components that have, the capabilities of running forever and a day, dirty.
yeah.
And so the government's buying these devices that all they want it to do is get out there and chop. They don't care how it runs.
in layman term, Mike, they call that the mil spec tech
Exactly.
mentality.
Yeah. All you
Oh,
want to do is this thing needs to be operational. Dump whatever you need to on it. And so CLP and a hard brush, brother, we had that thing going. You'd punch the bore every now and then. And other than that, just don't burn your barrel up.
well,
Yeah,
well, boys, I know that we got a lot more to talk about, but we're going to have to wrap up the podcast today. Mac, is there anything that we didn't talk about today that you would like to let everybody know? And we'll definitely have you back on again, brother. You know that. But what's uh,
only
what's the last words from you and what you want to tell folks?
just get out. Just get yourself out and you know enjoy the enjoy what you there's a way to do what you love. Um, you just have to figure out how to do it. It's not pretty, it's not perfect, but the more you do, the better it's going to help your mental side and
Right.
your physical side. I've done more in the last 8 years than to be out and active just because I need something to do and I have to keep myself focused on doing something. But I've done more physically in the last 2 years with gunsmithing that surpasses probably all of the physical therapy I've done in the 8 years.
Yes, sir.
Um, and just learning how to do new things different ways, and put that physical side of things. I've learned more about my body and my capabilities
Right.
than any PT has ever taught me. Um, and on the mental side too, you know, learning how to do all this stuff and learning, figuring out that you can do something that you didn't think you could helps the mental side of things and it pushes you to do more and more.
Yes, sir.
Man, Mac, I truly appreciate you coming on and always sharing your knowledge, dude. Brother, you always been a good guy, and we look forward to having you back on. But just you touched on a lot just in that final statement. It's just get out of your head and get out of your home. Figure out a new way to do you. We're all unique in our injuries, but we're all unique individuals. And the bigger point is just find a way to get back after life. It's not all pretty, but life's not pretty.
Absolutely not.
It's gonna rough us up, but at the same time, man, it can be beautiful if we just allow it to be. So,
Yes, sir.
dude, you guys keep after it, man. I absolutely love these podcasts, being able to share, and Mac, thank you again for all your service, brother, and the way
Uh,
you just continue to get after it.
there's no different way to do it.
That's right. Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to Accessible Hunter Podcast. We'd definitely like to thank our supporters, Devon's Hunting Friends, Camp Freedom, Spartan Wheel Chariots, and Be Adaptive Equipment. Mac, we love you, man. We're glad to see you doing well and out on the range and getting after it. Mike, I just love doing podcasts with you. And don't forget, folks, that we're on the Outdoor Call Radio app every Monday.
Absolutely, I wouldn't do it without you guys. And
Mhm.
Mac, man, I'm
Thanks
looking
for.
forward to seeing you getting on them close shots, dude.
I'm gonna give it a shot this next month. We'll see. I don't know. It might be time to hang this one up too.
man, man,
No way.
let us know how you're shooting, and we'll have you back on
For
in the
sure.
fall. And I got $20 burning a hole in my pocket. Maybe I can get down to West Virginia and we can do a couple of side bets.
Well, I'm pretty good at losing $20, so you might be in pretty good luck.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe it'd be an easy mark. Let me win the first one, then I'd just go home with your 20.
Hey, it's
That
gas
first
money,
that
man.
that first one's always easy to win, Greg. It's the double or nothing that comes after that that hurts.
Dude, that's the truth. I've been hustled once or twice in my life, so it's the second one, the double or nothing, that you leave there without your car. So, guys,
My problem is my mouth runs more than my abilities do.
Yeah.
So I talked myself right out of $20 this weekend.
well, boys, have a good afternoon. Thanks so much for listening, folks, and we're gonna stop the podcast here.